Hello and welcome. This is attorney Brad Micklin. I'm the managing member of the Micklin Law Group, which is a law firm concentrated in men's and fathers' rights in divorce, custody, and family law matters. As you may know, I do a daily tip on my YouTube page, and I think it also goes onto my website, in which I try to give you a very brief, concise piece of information each day so that you have some guidance with the issues that you might be facing. I also do a monthly webinar series that also gets posted on my YouTube and websites, where I go much more in depth into one broad topic, and I try to give you a great deal of information. This is part of what I call a how-to series, where I try to give you sort of a bridge between the two. The daily tips don't really educate you a great deal on any given topic, and the monthly webinars are often too long for people to be able to sit through to get the information they need. So I do these videos to give you kind of a bridge in between the two. Today's how-to video, or not necessarily how-to, but today's video is the top 5 great things about divorce cases. And I know the titles are going to be shocking, and I know people are going to accuse me of just making a title because I'm trying to get good ratings, because there couldn't possibly be 5 things that are great about a divorce. And truthfully, I struggled with the topic also, because I first choose a topic, then I write the support for it. So I did struggle with it. I've been a divorce attorney for 22 years now. I personally went through a horrible divorce. It took about 3 years. When I was a kid, my parents got divorced, and that was horrible. So my background and my experience doesn't really suggest that divorces are great either. But I believe that you get what you look for, so I thought I could do this. I did come up with 5 things I think will help at least change the view that you have going into a divorce. So the first thing is that it can end at any time. People think divorces are this long, horrible, 5-year process, and it's going to cost you everything you have. It's going to tear your family apart. And unfortunately, that can be the truth for some cases, but it doesn't need to be. And I think the misconceptions that people bring into divorces often cause them to go into that kind of direction. I tell all my clients, 4 reasonable people, meaning 2 reasonable clients, 2 reasonable lawyers, you can settle a divorce case in 15 minutes. The law favors settlements. Judges prefer settlements, so you can settle your case by sitting in a conference room on a weekend with your attorney if he or she works on the weekends. The courts will bring you in as soon as you tell them the cases are settled. It will usually take you first, so you're not sitting around, so you save a lot of time and a lot of money. The whole process is geared towards settlement, but I don't think a lot of people recognize that and don't understand that they control the entire process from the very start. Second thing is the divorces are in a court that is called a court of equity. There's 2 main types of courts in New Jersey. There's courts of law and courts of equity. Courts of law were the courts that were first formed in our nation, and they definitely dealt with things what considered like black letter law. So if a statute said X, Y, and Z, you had to do X, Y, and Z. If your contract had 5 terms, you had to comply with the 5 terms. The courts of equity, which is where your family court is, grew out of the inability of the law to really address fairness under certain circumstances. So it started to expand and move away from your black letter law. So they started to deal with greater rights and sort of righting the wrong. You know, a maxim for equity is you must come with clean hands. The example I always give to explain what a court of equity does that differs from a court of law is an example I got in law school about building a pool. So let's say you're a homeowner and you see that somebody is coming and building a pool in your backyard, and you didn't ask for it and you didn't contract for it, but you watch them build it. And it's a tremendous pool and it's a great value. It increases your house tremendously. And then the person who built the pool comes and says, I want to get paid $50,000. It's my cost and labor for what I did. Now, under court of law, you'd say, well, forget it. You didn't have a contract. I'm not paying you anything. But now you've received a tremendous burden, quite possibly through an honest mistake. Well, court of equity says that that shouldn't be the case, that one person shouldn't be unjustly enriched, even if it was a mistake. Or at least one person shouldn't be greatly harmed, either or. So in a case like this, the court would construe that you have a contract just through actions, through estoppel. You can't deny it because you saw it, you recognized it was being done, you know that there was a benefit to it, and you didn't stop it. So Court of Equity is going to right that wrong and impose a contract on you to pay for it. Well, that's what family court has. And that long historical explanation was just so that you can understand that when you go into a family court, they have much broader powers to do things that the law might say shouldn't be done, or that maybe the agreement that you have doesn't compel you to do it, the court's going to do it either, or anyway. Now, of course, that doesn't necessarily always turn out to be a good thing, depends on where you're standing on that side of an agreement, but the point is that the second great thing about a divorce is that it's a quarterback league. They're not bound by black and white letter law, they're bound by what's fair. Third is you really get to learn who your spouse is. Now, you usually think you know that person, but believe me, you often encounter a very different person when you get into a divorce litigation. I always say when somebody tells you or shows you who they are, believe them. And that may be the first time you really get to see the heart of somebody that you're dealing with. And again, not necessarily always a good thing, but it's good to learn that and to be in a position where you can affect change from that. And you know, a lot of people will say, well, it's not me. They'll blame their lawyers for their bad conduct in a divorce, and that's just never acceptable. We as lawyers are the agent of our clients. We're not doing anything that our clients haven't authorized. Now, they may not fully understand the process or the steps that we're taking, but you can never say that a step was done against the client's will by his or her lawyer. It just doesn't work that way. So the lawyer is always licensed by the client to do it. So if your adversary is blaming his or her lawyer, tell them that's bull. It's just time to get a new lawyer then, if that's really the case. Fourth is you have an opportunity to address and fix these problems. You know, most of the time you're coming to get a divorce, and obviously for some horrible reason, not necessarily just a decline in your relationship, but a lot of people come having significant financial problems, and they may not have even known about it. One or both of you may have significant drug or alcohol addiction issues. There could be mental issues that are surfacing. You know, it's very challenging to address these problems in an intact family. You know, you're on day by day, you're trying to make things work, or you're often overlooking things so that you can keep the peace. You know, you might have responsibilities, you're raising children. All these things compound addressing these very significant issues, and more often than not, they're not addressed. And these issues, specifically the ones I mentioned, like financial, addiction, mental issues, they tend to get worse, and in many ways, they are passed on to your children if you have children. So getting into a divorce and flushing these issues out gives you a chance to identify them and to address them, hopefully while they're still in some manner of control for you. And the last great thing about getting a divorce, it's really a fresh start. People who come to me for a divorce, when I went to get a divorce, and everybody I know, you do it when it's at its very worst. Most people that I've encountered will put in everything they can in order to make their marriage work. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's 20 years. It could be 20 days. I've had people come to me after 20 days and ask to get divorced. But you at least got to the point where you can't take it anymore. And I know people always say things like, oh, it's cheaper to keep her. It's not. It's never cheaper to keep her. Rarely are you going to have a circumstance where you're paying more in alimony or legal fees than you were to be supporting the spouse. Even if it seems that way, it's not. Support is almost never higher than what the cost of maintaining your household would have been. And when you're married, the spouse has entitlement to everything that you have. So even though you may be giving up half of your retirement account, if you remain married, your spouse would receive all of your retirement account, both in having access to it and then, unfortunately, if you were to pass. So it's never cheaper to stay in a horrible situation. So people like to justify it that way because it's more comfortable. Now, obviously, these 5 things aren't going to apply to everybody, and I understand that divorces are not necessarily a great thing, and it's almost selfish of me to say it as a divorce attorney, but I do believe that you get what you focus on. So if you go into your divorce expecting that there is going to be something good that comes from it, then you'll get something good from it. So hopefully these tips will help you and help you move along in that case. If you need more information on this and other types of divorce-related tips, you can go to my website, which is micklinlawgroup.com. That's MICKLIN, lawgroup.com, all one word. You can call us at 973-562-0100 if you'd like to schedule a consultation. And if you like these videos, you can get more of them on our YouTube page, which is Brad Michael Micklin, or again on my website also. Thank you.